Any other comments from the audience? Mr. Smith?
Good evening, Mike Smith, 750 Wiegand Way. Mayor and Council, I come before you on the budget and the workshop meeting that you held. While I didn't attend, I watched at home, and while I do feel critical of what happened at that meeting, or should I say lack of what happened, my personal method is to offer positive criticism. A workshop meeting should have had a free flow of ideas, conversation, and discussion. Over the many years when the council discussed budgets and held workshops, very little other than the so-and-so makes too much, and then we always heard to cut them all by 10%. The last 3 years that I know of, detailed cuts and adjustments were presented by at least one council member and often by our city treasurer. At this time, I did not hear one detail coming from the dais. And in the recent past, council members have spoken about the imbalance. The mayor, being the only remaining council member from the previous council, recognizes the imbalance and appeared that the mayor was stimulating the discussion for the workshop for the matter that was before you. That was in the place of just taking a good old-fashioned leadership and getting it done. And no offense to Mayor Batchelor, but I think the time for stimulating the conversation needs to fade away, and you just need to take leadership, and I'm sure the rest of the folks up there can keep up. So I know from personal experience it's real hard to find the support to even have the discussion, more so when you're constantly under attack. But I'll continue to push for this issue, the structural imbalance. While I do not and did not have 3 votes at that time, I don't see no reason why we couldn't get 3 votes at this time. At the time of appointment, everybody talked about hitting the ground running. So I want to stimulate the discussion for the budget when it comes back at the next meeting, so people have time to provide input. As pointed out, the city budget has a fundamental problem. Without development, certain efforts cannot be maintained. Without a growing sales and property tax revenue, public safety cannot be maintained. If the people had their wish and no growth was a reality, like now, the wishes of the people cannot be met with the current revenue profile. Dixon has twice the sales tax per capita of most average cities and cannot maintain a level of service or the quality with the current sales and property tax base. This proves Measure B is inadequate. Residential growth should be balanced with the ability to financially support infrastructure and services. There are fee-based services that are being supplemented by the general fund. There are enterprise fund activities that are being supplemented by the general fund. The rating of the general fund, because the council doesn't have the will to keep the fees at the needed level of the people's expectations, are wrong. If the people don't support the fee increase, lower the service. This brings up the philosophy of service and order of precedence or lack thereof. Do we fund street sweeping over police? Do we fund landscape and lighting over parks and recs? Do we hold sewer fees low and impact fire? Do we build a Southwest Park or a community center knowing the developer will pay, but property tax can never support it or maintain it? The budget problem is solvable without the cry of bankruptcy. This is a diverse council that should not keep pushing these fundamental problems forward via a quick fix of cuts for short-term gain. The council has the opportunity to provide a solution because of your diversity up there. There's at least one council member that has a good, strong business background in budgeting when times were tough. There's another council member that has looked over the budget in detail for 12 years that promised to provide solutions once elected. Other council members are fairly new, and I hate to say your honeymoons are over. You don't get the 2-year learning curve to get familiar with it. And for the first time in almost 4 years, except for one department head, the city staff is fully staffed with very competent people, and there's a city manager. If you look back over history, there was always key people missing to get to the root of this problem. So with those strengths, you should have the courage to have the discussion and open. Bring the unions to the table and open. Lay it all out in front of the people and open. This way we could see what was done, not read about what wasn't. This way we can understand what was present and what was presented and not guess. And this way we can have the trust to greater good for the greatest number, while protecting the long-term interest was the goal, and not those of the few or the one. So I'll leave you with one final thought. You have a structural problem. Do not spend too much time working on the roof of this house of cards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other comments from audience on non-agenda items? Mrs. Wing?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and city staff. Tiffany Wing, Executive Director of the Dixon Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the city, we'd just like to share with the community that the Chamber of Commerce Governmental Affairs Committee will be hosting the annual State of the City address on February 12th, which is a Thursday at 7:30 a.m., and we're encouraging members of the public to attend. It is open. Seat reservations can be purchased through the chamber for $20, and a full breakfast will be served as well, so it will be quite an event. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wing. Any other comments from the audience on non-agenda items?